Lord of the Mysteries. Chapter 11:29. Pressure. The current abyss is a place most devils are unable to live in. Upon hearing Mr. Fool's reply, Catalia and company inevitably felt a deep sense of shock. In mysticism, the abyss was considered by all to be the most corrupted and most disorderly place. It was where the devils lived. But now, most of the natives were unable to survive there. Is the environment in the abyss worsening, causing the devils to be unable to adapt to it, or is it because the situation regarding the corruption, chaos, and degeneration has improved, making the abyss no longer suitable for the devils to live in? Alger quickly had two theories, but he didn't know which one it was. The hermit Katla shared the same thoughts as him, but she was even more puzzled as to why the queen would ask such a question. Regarding Mr. Fool's answer, it seemed to have a deeper meaning to it, one that could help the queens in understanding whatever agenda she had, and its secrets. As for justice, she suddenly thought of the Church of Knowledge's prophet demigod. He had once said that the end of the world would arrive in 1368 of the fifth epoch. This was publicly acknowledged by all Beyonders who were good at making prophecies. Even the deities had agreed with it. It's 1350 this year. We're only 18 years from the apocalypse. Hence, there are signs appearing in the abyss. The chaotic and degenerate environment that is originally filled with abstract meanings has broken past its limits, becoming even worse. Audrey had a rough idea of the situation, and this added to her slight anxiety and unease. As there weren't any signs of the apocalypse in the beginning, she didn't put much weight on the matter. She usually paid more attention to the current wars, casualties, and the victims of suffering. But now, the anomaly within the abyss had left her inexplicably horrified. She desperately wanted to improve herself. She wanted to finish digesting the potion and obtain the Beyonder characteristic left behind by Vin Rambus to advance to become a demigod. Only then could she have the ability to interfere and resist certain things that she didn't want to see happen. Mr. World, entrust me with more tasks. Audrey silently prayed in her heart and secretly placated her restless emotions. The members such as Leonard, Furs, and Zio actually had some doubts about whether the abyss really existed. This was because, after the second epoch, the abyss had never revealed itself to the world again. The most active devils in the real world had come from the Blood Sanctify sect. Even the high-level devils and evil existences that the rituals pointed to were highly likely to be the highest echelons of the Blood Sanctify sect. Of course, the evil god, the dark side of the universe, was widely regarded as the embodiment of the abyss, but his presence was extremely low. If he hadn't occasionally responded to the ritual and showed the characteristics of the devil, he would probably be considered a pure legend, just like Giant King Ormer. But even so, the secrets from the Church of Evernight that Leonard could come into contact with had also shown that it was possible that the dark side of the universe was a disguise used by other evil gods and hidden existences. This wasn't surprising to Derek. In certain places some distance away from the City of Silver, deep in the endless darkness, there were many devils that were unable to maintain their calm states. There was no lack of demigods like demons among them. The situation there wasn't too different from the abyss. If not for the fact that the Giant King's court and other iconic items existed, the City of Silver citizens would definitely have suspected that the truth behind them being abandoned was that they had been thrown into the abyss. As the thoughts flashed through the members' minds, Katla restrained her doubts and continued asking. Honorable Mr. Fool, the second question is, did the things that Emperor Roselle do in his later years have any external, unnecessary influence? This question reminded Klein of the shocking details in Roselle's later diary entries. Immediately he sighed. With the posture of the fool, he slowly shook his head. No. Those things were what the Emperor wanted to do. Just as Katla felt an uncontrollable sense of disappointment and sadness when she heard Mr. Fool smile with a sigh. It wasn't due to an external influence or influencer, but due to corruption. It's very difficult to detect, even for him. Corruption. Emperor Roselle was corrupted in his later years. At that time, he was already a grounded angel. How could he be corrupted? Is this from a particular true god or the underground corruption that even the ancient gods feared? Amidst the shock, Audrey came up with a guess based on the secrets she knew. Alger and the other members of the Tarot Club also didn't expect such a thing to happen to Emperor Roselle in his later years. They began to suspect his purpose behind him creating the cards of blasphemy. At the same time, they believed that Mr. Fool's search of the cards of blasphemy might contain deeper motives, much more than what they had originally deduced. In this game that involves the entire world, only important figures like Mr. Fool have the right to become a player. And we are only a card or some chips. The kings of angels and sequence 1 angels might be qualified to participate. Alger sighed as he had the desire to become a player. The story of the Emperor's later years went from being a tyrant to an evil god. A book that starts off with romance, motivation, passion, love, adventure, and even the decadent lifestyle of Intis high society later turns into a horror story? I wouldn't even dare write something like that. If it were me writing it, I would make the Emperor's final tragic end stem from a betrayal in one's love, a marriage betrayal, or betraying an oath. Furs couldn't help but let her thoughts go wild. She even had the urge to start writing a set of chronicles for Emperor Roselle. Of course, there were quite a number of Roselle's chronicles on the market. Some of them were even prohibited items. Corrupted. So it's because of corruption. Katla sighed and felt sorrowful. She sighed with emotion. In the end, the Emperor didn't end up like the story of the dragon-slaying warrior he had spoken of. The hero didn't turn into an evil dragon. He was still a legend worthy of worship, but the sad thing was that, up to today, this misunderstanding was finally beginning to be resolved. After her emotions settled down, Katla recalled the matter of being corrupted. The more she thought about it, the more horrified she became. She believed that she was one of the members of the Tarot Club who knew Roselle the best. She knew very well what height this emperor had reached in his later years. Of course, Mr. Fool was the convener, a witness, and not a member. However, a sequence 1 angel such as him, someone who made the throne of divinity a target, had been silently corrupted. He, and the people around him, didn't notice it at all. This is much more terrifying than it is horrific. Katla secretly took a deep breath before slowly exhaling to regulate her emotions. Then, she bowed towards the end of the long, mottled table. Thank you for your answer, Honorable Mr. Fool. I'm also thankful that you didn't ask anything beyond my means. The Fool Klein gave a self-deprecating laugh as he leaned back into his chair and nodded slightly. You may begin. Just like the previous gathering, the members of the Tarot Club had either just advanced or were still digesting. They didn't have any trades to do, and they didn't need anything for the time being. After exchanging a few looks, they decided to directly enter the free exchange segment. Of course, Emlyn was a special exception. He really wanted to make a request to get someone to start a jailbreak to free him from the basement of St. Samuel Cathedral. Yes, to this day, he was still under protective custody, behind Cheney's Gate at the Backland headquarters of the Church of Evernight. In his neighboring cell was Bishop Utravsky, and during this period of time, no Nighthawk had come to interrogate him. If not for the people in charge of guarding the sealed area bringing them water and food every day, Emlyn definitely would have believed that he and Father Utravsky had already been forgotten. The dark, silent environment is still alright, but it's just a little cold. But without dolls, newspapers, books, and historical documents, this life is meaningless. Besides, the Nighthawks provide me with cow blood, and it tastes nasty. The effects aren't too good either. I'm already becoming weak. Emlyn opened his mouth, but he didn't say a word because he felt that this was a very embarrassing matter. After all, he was the one who asked the star and had pushed for protective custody. Yet he ended up also being brought into protective custody. I hope that fellow hasn't forgotten me and is thinking of a way to get me out. Emlyn glanced at the star Leonard and maintained his silence. Leonard maintained his posture and didn't respond to the moon's gaze. There was nothing he could do for the time being. This was because he was the one who had raised the term protective custody in front of the Archbishop. As for Emlyn White, he was a vampire viscount, equivalent to a sequence 5 beyonder. He was a mobile humanoid bomb that also believed in the Earth Mother. There was no reason for him to be released immediately. I can only wait for the Sanguine to protest through other channels before I have the authority to handle this matter. The Star Leonard decided to apply for a private exchange later and get Emlyn to think of a way to get the upper echelons of the Sanguine to contact the Church of Evernight. Their interaction had been noticed by Justice. She immediately thought of the question Mr. Moon had asked last time. She suspected that something had gone wrong during the protective custody operation, but it didn't seem too serious. I heard that the priest of the Harvest Church saved quite a number of people during the great smog of Backland. I hope nothing bad happens. Audrey nodded slightly and cast her gaze at Little Sunday. The other members of the Tarot Club also cast their gaze towards the sun Derek. They knew that the City of Silver had planned on exploring the Giant King's Court last week, so it was likely that the results were out. The son Derek sat up straight and glanced at Mr. Hangman before saying in a very natural manner, "We've completed our first exploration of the Giant King's Court. 3 dead, 1 missing, 5 survivors. We first arrived at the front door of the King's Court and saw 2 silver knights in an unknown state standing guard there. This is the name of the Giant Pathways Sequence 3.